Welcome all, and this is Anu Asafo. I'm your host, Kim. This week on the show, we have Chief's Thunderground Thursday show. If you are a regular supporter of the Enlightenment and Transformation channel, you probably noticed that there was a slight change in the schedule this week. So Thursday's show will be aired today for the Anu Asafo Show. This show centers around justice. After you listen to this episode of Thunderground Thursday, I suggest that you check out the commercial clip for the upcoming workshop on the power of the 14 African principles. It can be found on the seduluhouse.com website and the Anu Nation YouTube channel. In that clip, he breaks down this myth of justice that we've bought into. And actually, I think I'll play that clip before we get into the show. It was really, really powerful because it finally broke down something I've heard Chief say in one of the archived blog talk shows. I don't remember which one, but I think it may have been one on rituals for protection and victory or something like that. But anyway, he said that he wasn't of the ice or from the ice, so the idea of justice was not something that he dealt with. And I've wondered what he meant by that, and so I finally found out in this clip. So after I watched it, so many thoughts were triggered. Images and memories of people in protest chanting for justice during the civil rights era, just doing mass rituals asking for justice, and then thinking about what that really meant. We've gotten exactly what we've asked for. But, that's because so many of us are frozen in time or a certain frame of mind. So I'm going to play that clip for you right before an announcement about the upcoming workshop. But first, make sure you click the follow button on the Enlightenment and Transformation page of Blog Talk Radio to keep up with all the shows as well as news and announcements with the Anu Spiritual Order and Training. Also, be sure to check out the many resources provided to keep you in the loop. On Facebook, you have Orisha Religion, Sedulu House, Spiritual Institute, Uya Asana and Self-Actualization with the Cosmic Forces of West Africa. Information is posted on those pages regularly. On the web, you have anunation.org, seduluhouse.com, orishareligion.com, and enlightenmentandtransformation.com. So, thanks for tuning into the show this week, and enjoy.
I got into this understanding and in this community work because I hated what was being done to me and my people. Not because I loved my people so much, I just don't like bullies. So I said, you know what, I don't like to be scammed. I don't like bullies. I don't like seeing people taking advantage of them. So I said, I'm going to get into the fray. Later, it turned into a love, but it's still more hate than love. Just polarities, right? If I said I did it because of love, I'd be just as imbalanced as if I did it because of hate. Hell is now, but it's a state that you can achieve now, as is heaven. And it's the state when you're frozen in your ways and actions. You're dumb to the truth, blind to the truth, can't understand the truth. That's hell. That's freezing. We even have agents on this planet that seek to sometimes bring that place of arrest, being arrested in your transformation and your movement. Freeze. Polar ice. Police. And they come to serve ice. What are they serving? Justice. Just ice. Okay? You see, governments are designed by occultists. They know what they're saying and what they're doing. Because even by turning my back on you, casting my shadow to you, I still cast the light of the sun to you. And a vampire or shade dissipates in sunlight. The truth is the light. The truth is you ain't there. You're a projection of my subconscious mind wanting you to be real because I need an adversary. Because I don't want to fight my own ego, my own issues, because it's too hard. So let me blame it on somebody else. So whenever I get to that point when I start realizing, what's going to happen? Michael Brown, I'll just kill one of your children. I'll show you how real I am. All you're going to do is a mass ritual. You're going to march in the streets, chanting my name, fires and candles, and everybody drinking and getting drunk and pouring out liquor. Thank you for the sacrifice. Yeah, you're absolutely you, there's a ritual that I do in my house. It's the 10-point ritual that I do in my home whenever that spirit tries to affront. And there's a chant to that ritual. And the chant goes, it's 10 points. Get the F out of my face with that bullish. Okay? Just do that next time. You're going to see. They're going to flee. So, somebody else had a question. What you said about that. Okay, announcements. December 27th, I will be presenting a workshop, Power of the 14 African Principles, at Black and Nobel in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That is December 27th between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. And I'm sure you will enjoy that. Again, I urge you to RSVP now. You can go to Enlightenment and Transformation for more information. Also, we urge everyone to sign up for the free Arisha Unlock Your Inner Power podcast-based class on the SedulaHouse.com. We are coming down to the wire. We'll be presenting not only our new spiritual training, phase 1, on the Sedula House, but several other classes that we have coming, which will be supportive classes. We have more free classes coming forth as a support to the Anu spiritual training, and also as an offering to our listening audience, those who are just here enjoying the information and applying the information. You can get a first-hand approach to our learning material by way of our free courses. So we urge you to sign up. Of course, Unleash Your Inner Power is podcast based, but we will be putting some other ones up there as well that are directly and exclusive just to the SedulaHouse.com platform. So we look forward to you joining us over there. Of course, every Sunday, we have a live broadcast by the name of Chief Speaks. You can tune in right here on Enlightenment and Transformation, and you can call in with your questions. And I ask that we keep the questions down to at least one question per caller, and that's 11 a.m. every Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 a.m. Pacific. And that is the Chief Speaks show, which is a live Q&A segment where you can call in and ask the questions that you need to. All right? And that has been our announcement for this segment. Now back to our broadcast. Yes, here we are again with another Thunderground Thursday. This is Yuya, and in this show we will be discussing the concept of justice and injustice. All right? So thank you all for coming out. Here we go. Action speaks louder than words. Action speaks louder than words. Action speaks louder than words. Action, action, action. Action speaks louder than words. Action, action, action. Yeah, so again, this is Yuya. I want to thank you all again for tuning in, clicking on, and signing up for this particular session of Thunderground Thursday. And as I mentioned earlier, this show we're going to discuss injustice, or justice, but of course I'm going to cover injustice a bit. And the reason I'm doing this particular segment, I was reviewing some of my notes for the up and coming 14 African Principles lecture or workshop that I'm doing at Black and Nobel the 27th of this month, December. And reviewing some of my notes, I was really thinking about just really what I wanted to say, how I want to say it, and the pace and speed of what I want to do. For those of you who have seen me lecture before, you know that I really don't use notes or anything like that. So what I try to do is I basically perform the lecture before the lecture, and I'll work it all out how I want to do it and how it needs to be presented, and try to get a sense of how the vibe of what I'm saying is reverberating in a space. So literally I'll do the entire workshop out loud first, and that tends to help me a lot, just to try to determine my pacing and determine how I want to plan things and whatnot. So I was going over the piece on it, even-handedness, as many of you know, as in the clip that was presented recently, the promo clip, just reminding people of the event. You got a glimpse of a discussion I was having. I believe that was in Austin, Texas. One of those clips. I know one of them was in Austin. I know the other one was in Dallas. But in any event, so I was talking about properties of hell. I think someone had asked that question, and I was sharing just my perception, my viewpoint that I've thought about as hell being a place of freezing, a place of cold. In fact, usually when things leave and they're no longer in a place where they're transforming through conscious reality, they go cold, like a body. A body, even once the spirit, or more so the soul, leaves it, it still transforms. It's still going to change, and like even the hair will still grow and things like that. But certainly it's not a conscious thing. At least I don't feel it is, because the consciousness is shifted and moved somewhere else. So hell being that cold place, and I spoke about police agents, and again, you see that word ICE, who come to serve ICE, and they're serving justice, just ICE, and they're also called police officers. They're offering ICE. So if anybody saw the quick little clip, you saw me I think it was just a little portion of what I was sharing on it, because I went a lot deeper into just what hell, our perception of what hell is, as opposed to our perceptions of heaven, and the actual mechanisms that we go through to achieve such states of being. So it made me think about this term and this idea of justice, justice, right? And, or as I call it, even-handedness. Some may even call it impartiality to a degree. And I was thinking about the lecture and some things that I'm putting together for the workshop. There will also be a DVD, just to give you all a heads up. The 14 African Principles is something that there will be a follow-up DVD, as well as a follow-up class, as well as a follow-up book on the 14 African Principles. So, 2015, I will that it will be the year that you all will apply these divine principles to your life. And I look forward, for those of you, who are coming out. Again, be sure that you want to head over to Anu Nation, AnuNation.org. There you can purchase your tickets, you can RSVP, whatever else. So just go to AnuNation.org, and you're going to see event lists on the top menu, and there you can you'll find Black and Nobel on the 27th. Get your RSVPs in. I always tell you guys that. Telling you again. Get the RSVPs in. But in the event, so yeah, this idea of even-handedness, and a lot of times, unfortunately, people mistake justice for balance. They feel that once justice is served and balanced, things have been put back in balance. And unfortunately, a lot of people will use their pursuit for justice as an excuse for the most irreparable behavior. So one of the things that they'll do is they'll say, okay, well, they did it, so I'm going to do it. Or they're doing it to us, we might as well do it to them. You know, like it's some type of reciprocal exchange that's going on. Like it's a reciprocal pursuit of balance. Like there's some art in that, you know? One of the things too about citing, harping on, and centering on injustices is also that it can make one feel, pious. Okay. It sometimes can make a first person feel that they have a certain honor associated with them and their character because they've been wronged. And there's like a meekness to that. Okay. And people sometimes learn to really live in and maximize that victim personality. You find that with certain groups in our society today, that the majority of their dialogue, the majority of their pursuits of interaction with the rest of the world is based off of the rest of the world first acknowledging how much they've been victimized. And really it's just a ploy. It's a ploy for inaction. It's a ploy for attention, especially, you know, but inaction and attention, not taking responsibility. It's a ploy to gain pity, you know, really wanting to move through the world with that victim mentality or that victim concept, that victim character. You know, it also sometimes can make a person a little bit more interesting. Sometimes people will become victims just for conversation. They have nothing else to contribute to it. Okay. So they will cite their injustice. As soon as you see them, every time you talk to them, they're telling you about what they did or what somebody did. And that's the only way they can kind of center, anything around what they want to do or what they want to say. It's a form of manipulation. Okay. It's a form of manipulation, the remindings of your injustices that have been done to you. So like I said, I was going through the work and I was thinking about it. I said, you know, maybe I can give a little sneak preview of a little bit, not much, cause I won't be covering just one topic so much, with the 14 African principles. I'll be going through different things that really will help one to align the internal and external community. You know, it goes back to, again, to those questions that I've addressed before when people say, okay, I got this, I got that. You told me this, you told me this. Now, where do I start? Where do I begin? And, for those of you who've been listening for a while, you know that that is something that, maybe I harp on a little bit, giving people those starting points, because I see it as being so important. You know, at this point, accessing the information is not difficult. I mean, it's, again, between all the online forums and things like that. And then you got so many libraries closing now that, you just go to the free book giveaway rack in your library, or when they do the library book sales. And you know, when your libraries do the sales, you can get books for like $0.25 or like 50 cents. I mean, at this point, there's so much information that you can get that it's not really about data collection, but it's about knowing where and how to put your first foot down. And sometimes the harping on of injustices will prevent a person from putting their foot down. Like I said, people will use it as a way to give up responsibility for themselves. They'll use it as a way they'll use it as an excuse for a lack of mobility. The injustices. Because as long as there's injustice, and as long as you consider the injustices that have been done to you as a cause of all your calamities, and you can never be different until those injustices are different, or those injustices change, you always have an excuse. Because of course, injustice will never change. It will always be what it is. You cannot go back and change anything. So if you use that as the linchpin for your revolutionary theology, if you become a revolutionary purely because of injustice, let me be clear on that.
purely because of injustice, then what happens is that you'll get stuck in the mode. Well, soon you'll forget why you're actually fighting. Now, certainly, the pursuit of balance, like I think I said in one of the video clips, I came into I came into the struggle, which was a different process for me because of the imbalances that I saw waged upon my people. And I just, maybe it was the ego in me. Maybe it was the arrogance in me. But I just felt like for a people so regal and a people so royal that we shouldn't receive that type of treatment. So I geared up and jumped into the fight. And then eventually it changed to really a fascination and an admiration and a love for my group, my ethnic group, that made me say, this is why I'm fighting, but it vacillates back and forth. I still don't like to see people not being allowed to be free. And in all honesty, that's any people. I don't think anyone should be subjugated. How could you? Why would you subjugate anyone? People should be free to do what they feel to do. And I know one might say, but what if that harms other people? Well, then you're free to harm them. And I don't mean harm them in a way where, okay, it's an eye for an eye, but you're free just to harm them in a way where they stop harming you, or you're free to get away from them. You're free to do whatever you need to do. I mean, that level of freedom should be experienced. And with that level of freedom, there comes a responsibility. See, that's kind of the hard part with injustice. As long as you can maintain the focus on your injustices, then you never really have to be responsible for any freedom that you may be able to achieve. Because you can always say that you can't be free because of the injustice. And the injustice will never change. It'll always be there. So therefore, you'll never be free. Okay? And a lot of times, this justice that people look for, now I've noticed this lately, or recently, with some recent events, the justice that you look for is a myth. It's like the Super Friends, the Justice League. You have this mythological sense of justice that you've never seen enacted, but you're always calling and screaming for it. It's almost like when people, okay, let's look at like the Central Park, the young men who were wrongly accused of attacking a jogger in Central Park back in the 80s. I'm sure a lot of you remember this, but especially for those of us who live in the New York area, that was like a major thing back in the days. When that happened, and those young men were locked up for a very long time, recently released. Come to find out, of course, it wasn't them, which that was being said back then. I remember there was other evidence produced and no one wanted to hear it until now. So we can ask, well, did we receive justice? Well, of course not. They lost so many years of their lives, their reputations. And then you never think about not just what happened to them, but to their families. How many of their parents, because there was a lot of them, how many of their parents had heart attacks, strokes, and ulcers because of that situation? How many of their brothers and sisters and friends and girlfriends went into deep depressions behind that? Little brothers, little sisters, so many people connected. When someone is taken away and confiscated and kidnapped, there's so many other people who are affected. But then we might say, well, they're getting millions of dollars for their time in jail. Is that justice? Well, of course not. But one of the key things to think about, which is really interesting, is that the same individuals who are calling for justice for these young men are the same individuals who are paying the retribution. I mean, where do you think the money comes from? Do you think it comes out of those police officers' pensions, or that prosecutor's pension, or prosecutor's bank account? That comes from taxpayers. So it's the taxpayers that say, oh, this is so sad. These young men need justice. We're going to sue the city. And then it's the taxpayers that end up paying anyway. and you wonder why you're getting more tickets, or why you're being pulled over for more foolishness, or you're getting citations for jaywalking now. Well, you got to pay for the justice you just called. So it's a myth. That idea and system of justice that we call for when we're stuck in that mode of immobility and not wanting to really do anything with our life, or not doing things that we should with our life, that mythology that we apply and we institute, it keeps us stuck. You know, it gives you this really fantastic and amazing self-excuse for being impotent, to being ineffectual. You know, it's like, well, if they're not going to do anything about it, I'm not. It's not fair. You know, we focus on the fairness. You know, and sometimes it's not just a personal thing. Sometimes people harp on complaining about injustices throughout the world. And there's nothing that they're actually going to do about it. But at least for those few moments that they were complaining, you know, there was some interaction with an individual where they were able to kill some time, basically. Let me tell you this. Remember, you're a microcosm of the macrocosm. So let's look at it like this. If you could sit down on your computer, on your notepad, or wherever you're at, and you can make a comprehensive scroll or listing or account of every injustice that you know of that's occurring right now across the planet. Make a comprehensive list. And then what you do is you make a determination of what kind of personal action that you can wage in order to change what you think is unfair. But now what you want to first do is you want to ask yourself this. If I get angry, well, not angry, if I'm infuriated, if I'm frustrated, if I have emotional outbursts, will that change any of those injustices? What can I do on a microcosmic level within myself to right those wrongs internally? Because whatever injustices you're seeing throughout the world externally are the same injustices that your intellect is playing on your spirit. Okay? It's the same injustices that are occurring inside of your body. If you see mineral resources being exploited, think about the exploitation of your own body. Think about how you abuse your body. Think about that for a second. You know, if you see child soldiers, right, in certain places, well, think about how you misuse and mistreat the child within you. The wonderment and the awe that your soul is still calling for, that you ignore. The purpose that it calls you to, the enjoyment, the hobbies even, we'll make it simple, that it calls you to. You take that away and you put that child in permanent timeout for 30, 40 years. On some levels, you have to begin to see your emotional being as being independent of what other people do. This frees you up. You know, when I think about justice and injustice too, and it's what kind of had me thinking too. I was thinking about all of the different clients and students I have, adult people in the 30s, 40s, 50 years old, who are still subject to the thoughts and ideologies of their parents, and who still hide their spirituality from their parents. I mean, how much growth do you think you're really going to have? I mean, if you think about the insane thinking in that, you're an adult. You may be older than your parents were when they had you. And you're still afraid to tell your parents what you actually do. You're absolutely terrified of their opinion of you. Now, I'm one who's all about relationships. So I do respect the respect that we should all have for our elders and for our parents. But if you're conscious and your parents are not conscious, How insane would it be for them to still remain as the reference point for what you should do in life? Isn't that crazy? Shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't you be their reference point if you're the one who's awakened? But if you're acting out of fear and you're frightened, then really you're not conscious. Really you're not awakened. If you're still afraid of your parents' opinion or your family's opinion or your loved one's opinion about your growth, then you haven't gotten there. You know, you don't have to, this is where reciprocity comes in. You don't have to reciprocate the mental standpoint, exertions and expressions of others. It doesn't matter if they're your children, your parents, your spouses, whatever. You don't have to do that. So you never have to see. One of the statements that we get caught up in is when we say, why would you do that to me? I wouldn't do that to you. Okay, so you wouldn't do that to me. I'm going to do it to you though. You know, I was having that conversation earlier with somebody, and I was speaking about how men and women interact, and a lot of times how women don't admit how abusive they actually are. Because I asked her, I said, you know, and it's just in this society here, but I was saying that a lot of times, I said, if you disagree with one of your friends, what will you do? She said, oh, we'll go back and forth. I said, okay. Now, what if it's an intense disagreement? Like it's heated. What are you going to do? She said, we're going to go back and forth. We're going to keep going back and forth. I said, right. I said, now see, as a man, we don't really get into really intense disagreements with each other because we respect one another's aggression and we know where it will probably, somebody's going to get hit at some point. So instead of allowing it to go there, we'll probably just walk away, or we'll just say, hey man, go put the gloves on. We're just going to go fight and get this over with. At whatever age, that's what sometimes you'll see 70, 80-year-old men in the street fighting each other. You know, I've seen that before. One fell down and messed up his hip, couldn't even get back up. But they got it out their system. Now, of course, in this feminized society, there's people saying, oh, but that's barbaric. Yeah, you know, sure. So the thing is, with that level of disagreement, now, if you have a man and a woman disagreeing, the societal expectation is that the man should now transmutate himself into a woman. So he's going to have to keep going because he can't put his hands on her, of course. But she knows this, and she knows there's no way on earth that he can out-argue her. So even when he tries to walk away, she won't let him. When he tries to be nice or change the subject, won't let him. And he's expected now to go back and forth with her. That's not true reciprocity. So, but in fact, she's abusing him. Now, if he raises up and says, shut the F up, or picks her up and puts her in a room and locks the door and walks out the house and now leave me alone, now he's abusive and he has to go to jail. But we don't think about the abuse that was already being delivered to him. And he's only responding to said abuse. However, he does not respond in the same way because he's chemically wired different than his abuser. And vice versa. I was also sharing about a situation years ago with a very close friend of mine. Two of them were friends, but it was a very close friend and his girlfriend. And he was kind of, sneaking around on her and stuff when we were younger. And one day, and we were real young when this happened. We were probably right out of our teens. She came over to his place and he was on the phone with another young lady, and he was caught, dead to right. He was caught. And, as opposed to just taking that and saying, all right, you caught me, or just hanging up the phone saying, I don't know what you was talking about. He got upset with her. So he tried to divert everything by showing her anger, and then kind of got very aggressive with her. So she pulled out a kitchen knife and stabbed him repeatedly to the point that he was like basically, hamburger meat laying there. He survived it, but he had to go through all kinds of therapy and whatnot after that. And he tried to get all of us to be upset with her. I remember this. And everyone around where we live was upset with her, calling her a psycho and this and that. And I may have been the only one who said, you had that coming. You asked for that. And of course he got upset with me. And I said, well, think about it. I said, she's a woman. She's not built like us. She's emotional. She's not logical. Logically, she should have left you a long time ago because you're no good anyway. But she's emotional. So not only are you, she's over here, she's treating you to things. She showed up with food to your place to try to treat you and give you a nice afternoon and surprise you. She walks in and you're on the phone with another woman, and then you go and get aggressive and hostile with her as if you're going to put your hands on her. She's a woman. How do you expect her to respond? You didn't respect her emotional boundaries. So you're abusive because of that. And she responded to that level of abuse. Now, of course, I know the politically correct thing for me to say now is, and I'm not condoning that any woman starts stabbing her husband. And just like I was supposed to say with the other one, and I'm not condoning that any man tell a woman to shut the F up. I'm going to skip all of that for a second. I'm going to just talk about being wise for a second. Just using some wisdom and some respect, and not equating justice to reciprocity. See, he would have preferred for her to, when he got aggressive with her, he would have preferred for her to get, well, she did get aggressive, but he would have preferred in that moment for them to now be able to just kind of go back and forth and guerrilla each other. Because he's bigger and stronger. She was a petite little thing. Because he's bigger and stronger, the obvious response for her would have been to cower. And then at least he could have got out of that situation for the moment. But she decided she was going to use her woman senses, and she responded with emotion. You see. And I would say a pretty logical emotion anyway, because if you're looking like you're getting ready to attack me, I got to defend myself, So when we're talking about the concepts of justice, it's really important that we think about it from the standpoint of not so much returning what has been given. It's not really an eye for an eye thing. That's reciprocity. And we don't want to mix up reciprocity for justice. We don't even want to mix up fairness for justice. One of our mistakes that we make when we start to talk about things like spirituality and God, and we'll talk about the fairness. We'll say hey man, the man upstairs knows my heart. The man upstairs knows I'm a good guy, right? It's a common phrase that people use, and we kind of forget that the quote unquote man upstairs or woman upstairs or it upstairs or whatever you want to call it has no sense of fairness, because fairness is based upon relative perspective. And those soulful archetypes don't think in relative terms. They think in holistic terms. So for them, it's always about restoring balance and not so much restoring what is fair, or for you to give you a sense of fairness, or to even give you a sense of justice. It's not about your justice. It's about cosmic justice. And that's the key. The cosmic justice will always bring things into a certain alignment that none of us may be comfortable with. And sometimes even that alignment occurs in a way where we don't really totally understand why it had to happen the way it did. These are some of the hard conversations, or maybe just some of the hard realities that we have to face as evolving people. Those hard senses of justice. And how justice will every time move itself away and beyond what we consider to be fairness to be, because they have nothing to do with one another, and that's a hard thing. So, again, I'm speaking a little bit about some of these ideas that we have to look at when we're reestablishing principles and norms and values for our lives. Some of the small things that we have to, and I'm going to call them small things, because they're the quiet, subtle things that so often we will skip over. Those quiet, small things that we would skip over are typically the things that are going to get us tripped up. And I'm also referencing the reading for this year when I spoke about those parasitical energies that can serve to confuse us sometimes. You got to understand something about justice, or your desires for justice. Okay. Justice is intrinsically entwined with the concept of character. Intrinsically entwined with the concepts of character. Now, reciprocity is in there. Like when I said earlier, well, don't confuse it with reciprocity. It's not to be confused with reciprocity. However, it's a close cousin to reciprocity when we're talking about justice. The thing about it is that justice or even-handedness is not passive. It's not a passive force. I spoke about this before when I spoke about the energy of Ma'at. Justice, as you say, justice is swift. Well, that's why the Ma'atic feather is an ostrich. Very fast animal, very aggressive animal. Justice is quick and aggressive. Because justice quickly defines what we perceive ourselves to be. It is the rewards or punishments of life that signify what justice is. It is how you are rewarded or how you are punished. You see? And so justice is always an after effect. It's a byproduct. It's a response to something. And it's justice it's the finding of that character is what strengthens the character. Character is strengthened through justice. Okay. Now, the key to this one though is whomever you allow to define or to punish you or to reward you is who you will allow to define you. I'll say it again. Whomever you allow yourself to be rewarded by or defined by or rewarded by or punished by is who you are allowing to define you. So it's critical. And I know a lot of times with rewards, we don't think about it, but I brought this up before in the show. It must have been the Thunderground Thursday show because it's the only type of show where I really talk about this type of stuff. And I was speaking about the conscious community, how we're always so bent on exposing the harmful dangers of the public school system and how it destroys our people, it destroys our capacities for true education, destroys our capacity for creativity especially, and it also destroys the self-esteem of young children. We speak about that a lot, and we speak about the values of establishing our own institutions and homeschool paradigms and removing our children out of those spaces. And if we can't remove them, at least re-engineering the curriculum and the doctrines of those institutions to reflect the greatest good, values, and aspirations of the children who go there. So that's something that we talk about often, something we get into often, right? Now, whenever one of our children graduates from one of those spaces and they get a degree or, a postgraduate degree, we're the first ones to celebrate it. We're the first ones to put pictures up because we're so proud of them. I'm so proud of you. Well, what are you proud of? You're proud of that they just got a deeper degree and a deeper seasoning of something that you just said was harmful. That's called cognitive dissonance. So you allow those institutions to reward them. So therefore you're allowing those institutions to define them. And how do we know that the definition holds true? Because even within the conscious community, people are very quick to put the doctor in front of their name. They want you to know their degree of miseducation. It's important to them. No matter how indigenous the name sounds after it, they got to put the doctor in there first. Is that crazy? Now, I know a lot of people will say, yeah, but what about this elder and that elder, that elder? You going to tell me they didn't know what they were doing? Well, I'm going to tell you that our elders gave us so much valuable resources and wisdom and valuable information so that we could do better than them. I will say that. So now that's a reward, right? Graduating or being told that you're something. I'm at the top of my class, right? And that helps to define what you are. That even helps to define what you are in the eyes of your parents. Parents put bumper stickers on their car behind that, because that becomes now the defining point. And the punishment becomes a defining point too. Some people will introduce themselves as being an ex-con because they've allowed a system to punish them, so therefore they're defined by said system. But when you can move beyond the traps of justice as you perceive it, then you move beyond the traps of being unable to define yourself, which we call in the Nguzu Saba Kuji Chakalia, self-determination. It's about being self-defining, meaning your rewards or punishments mean nothing to me. We reward and punish from within. You know, I've received a lot of accolades in my tenure, not only as a community worker, but working in education for many years, and of course working in the corporate arena and just even doing NGO work and CBO work, community-based organizations. And, you know, I've gotten a lot of certificates and plaques and pictures drawn for me by children and things like that. And some years ago, I received an award from some elders in my community. And that probably meant more to me than anything else I've ever really received, you know, because it's a little bit different when your own recognize your work, you know, and especially when some of the elders who stood up there and presented. It was me, my cousin, and two other brothers who were presented. And that within itself, that was, you know, you got your elders and your uncles and other elders on top of their friends looking at a group of young men and saying, you know, we need to recognize them. That's valuable. That's really valuable when it comes from within, because these are the ones who gave you your first definitions of self. You know, when we were young boys, first helped us to define what our purpose, mission, and meaning of our own lives were. So those rewards mean more. The other ones I really don't pay that much attention to be honest with you. I mean, accept them graciously, you know, or not accept them. I may just take hold of them for a little while. And that goes for the punishments as well. Never cared much about what people thought. People would say, you know, when you're young, you know, you do things and they say, you know, and so thought you were so good and look at what you're doing now. You know, they're going to talk about you. Who cares? I mean, I never would say that out loud as a child, but that's what I was thinking. Who cares what they think? I don't care nothing about them. You know, they don't define what I am. You know, so they don't really, their opinions, their thoughts, their philosophies don't really matter very much. And this is why you can't seem to find justice. Because the people who you're seeking justice from, you don't matter to them. So justice becomes a myth. And you'll never receive it, so therefore you'll always have an excuse for not doing anything. And justice has become a very relative term. You see? So you want individuals to punish themselves. Or you want them to punish them based on your standards. It's not going to happen. Because even within the criminal justice system, let's say, for instance, the statutes and the recommendations for punishment, the system itself has come up with. So when the system does something wrong, you want them to apply their own standards of punitive recompense to themselves. That's not going to happen. And even if it did happen, why would you care? That's not your justice. You didn't define that. They're saying, even when all else fails, Even when all else fails, we will never allow you to define us by allowing you to punish or reward us. That's never going to happen. So even when you think we're punishing ourselves, we're still punishing ourselves from our own standards and reference points, not yours. As the same goes for a reward. We'll still do it from our own reference points. Think about the celebrations that children have to celebrate in school, the Halloweens and the Christmases and the Thanksgivings. I think they do Valentine's Day. I remember having to cut out hearts and stuff like that and give them to girls in the class, which I never did. I used to always just cut them out and keep them. But, I remember things like that. And, forcing me into your strange rituals and your strange customs defines what I am, whether it be your reward or punishment. So we do the same thing with children. When we say, oh, it's Friday, it's Valentine's Day, we're going to have a party day because it's Valentine's Day. You guys are going to get a treat, a party, a reward, a treat. That helps to define who and what they are. That, in fact, is justice. So, is there something inherently wrong with even-handedness / justice? I'm only using that term justice because I think probably more people will understand what I'm saying if I say justice. But is there something inherently wrong with even-handedness? No, certainly not. There's something that's not inherently wrong with it. What's blatantly insane is when you allow yourself to receive justice or even-handedness at the hands of someone who you would not allow in the same token to define you. Because in fact, by receiving their rewards or punishments, you're receiving their definitions of who and what you are. It's one of the reasons why even if you go into a criminal institution, you're known by a docket number. That's your number. And they'll tell you when you go into certain jails, that's your name now. I own you. Look at the back of your jumper. It says property of the state of so-and-so, or property of you in the county jail. They'll tell you property of such and such county. You see? And this is your number. And when you're asked to present that number, you represent it. Or if they usually put them on your wristband, you got to wear just like you're in the hospital. You got to wear these wristbands with your picture on and a docket number. And you got to present that because that now defines who and what you are because you've accepted that punishment. Yeah, I know many will say, well, what choice do I have? And they're coming to lock me up and then, well, you can still be free even though you're in bondage. You can still be free. You can still be who and what you are. You know, you see that all the time when you had those little freak zoo accidents. You know, these animals reach through the cage and pull people in. They're saying, listen, I'm free. I'm still an animal. Okay, just because you got me caged up in here, I'm not going to allow you to define me. Yeah, so justice is a tricky thing. And like I said, the 14 African Principles lecture, I feel like it's a vital one because it's vital because we need a set of norms and standards that we can begin to use to define ourselves. We need a set of norms and standards as well that we can use to even reward and punish ourselves. We can hold them against the 14 African Principles and make a determination if it falls in line with the ideas of rewards and punishments and definitions that we've picked out for ourselves. Okay. And we can remove ourselves from the foolish inconsistencies of our demands from justice, from a system that seeks to define us in a way that doesn't speak to our greater good or even what our physiognomy would accept as definition. We can remove ourselves from that. Okay. And that has to do also with the absolution. I think I spoke about that on Chief Speaks last Sunday when I was speaking about the absolution of truth, where people feel like it's got to be this or it can't be that. See, that's a sixth sense of justice. I think someone has said something like either you have A or you don't have A. Yeah, well, that's not for me. I mean, I'm dealing with African tradition. We don't really think like that. So I can't really get with that. You know, because you're telling me I'm stuck in binary. It's got to be off or it's got to be on. I can't see the holistic approach. I'm not allowed to do that, which of course would keep me trapped. And it's a little mind that wants that. It's a little mind that needs to be right, that needs the absolution of clear-cut decisions, clear-cut statements, so that I can be a winner and you can be a loser. Or maybe I can be the loser and you can be the winner. But someone has to be the winner, someone has to be the loser. You see? And that's where those little minds come in. That's when you have people who are fighting over their religions. Well, if you say you're this, what about that? And my religion says this. Well, okay, it goes right back to the I wouldn't do that to you statement. You see? These calls for reciprocal action have nothing to do with justice, because if we define ourselves as two different things, if we're both self-defining individuals, then our concepts of justice are going to be different. So why would I have to perform behaviors like you would, unless you're trying to make me wrong and trying to make yourself right, or vice versa? Why does it have to be as such? Why can't we just comprehend one another? See, now that I know that you would do this to me, that's all I really need to know. Or you won't do this for me. That's all I really need to know. I don't need to start trying to prick your guilt consciousness by telling you what's fair and what's not fair. Because of where you're at. So I'm going to whine about a lack of fairness. Well, you got to do this and I didn't get to do it. Okay. All right. That has nothing to do with justice, though. You're talking about fairness. That's something different. And that's relative. And it's not compulsory if I want to enact fairness. Again, there's a sense of smugness that comes when you can always complain about not receiving consistent justice. Okay. And it's an important point with all this too, when we talk about, well, they did it, so I'm going to do it. That's the revenge aspect. So even in that sense, you're being controlled by the other person when you seek for revenge. No matter what I talk about here, none of what I ever speak about or suggest is revenge based. That's one of the reasons why you hear me sometimes people ask me about current events. I don't like talking about it too much. Well, they're doing this now, and they doing that, and they doing it. See, it's that complain victim mentality. I stay stuck in that, so therefore I'm allowed to stay immobilized because of all the things that they doing to me. But also, if now all I can do is respond to that, which is a form of revenge, sometimes my response is angry, sometimes my response is belligerent, sometimes it's hostile, which is a form of revenge. I'm going to get back at you by posting something mean about you on Facebook because of what you did to me. Then in fact, you're still controlling me. You're still controlling me. I'm going to always make the decision to do what's for me. I'm not going to do what you decide is for me. I'm going to do what's for me. And as I've said before, I'm an African not because of colonialization and oppression. I'm an African despite colonialization and oppression. You see, I'm always going to do what's for me. And I'm never going to let revenge control who or what I am. And I mean, in all truth, the best revenge is success anyway. That's what I always have said. But trying to respond to a situation because you do evil to me, I'm going to now do evil to you, takes me out of my zone to the point where, I'm going to have some serious issue. There was a singer that I always loved listening to back in the days. Well, not back in the day. I shouldn't say that because I still listen to some of his stuff to this day. And he went through a situation some years ago good amount of years ago, where he was doing really well in his career and whatnot, and he decided that he was going to buy his mother a home, which he did. He bought her this beautiful home in Jamaica. And what happened was he bought this beautiful home. I think it was in I think it was in Mandeville. Brother was young. He wasn't even 30 yet. Yeah, I think it was in Mandeville in Jamaica. And he had these guys who said they were gonna rob him. Like, they were gonna take everything he got. Basically just some guys who were jealous. So they were talking about all these different things that they were gonna do to him and whatnot. So so they had broke into his home, you see. And they broke into his home and they took a bunch of stuff and whatnot. And so what he did was, and he was a very people who knew, because I knew people who knew him personally, just very cool, fun-loving, peaceful brother, just really laid back and cool. And what happened was, after he was robbed, because he had these guys who were basically trying to extort him, but they came and they robbed his house, he went and got these guns. He got these twin pistols, right? So a brother of his came to the house and was showing him how the pistols work, right? He was in the house with his mother and a couple other people. And while he was showing him how the gun worked, the gun went off and it hit a propane tank in the house, right? And when it hit the propane tank, when the gun had misfired, the house it set on fire, because propane is gas. So the house goes up in fire, right? So he runs out with the other guys he was with, and they get out the house. And he realized his mother was still inside the house. So he goes back in to get his mother, to get her out. The house was burning at this point, and they end up getting trapped inside. So when they finally got them, he was inside the house. Like when, they burnt bodies, they were still holding each other. They were hugging each other, burnt to pieces inside the house. That's how he died. And I always looked at that situation when it happened. I said, you see, this beautiful, peace-loving individual came front with some other individuals that had different intentions. And he put himself in a zone in life. He put himself in a zone where he was now going to step in their arena and repay evil with evil. That's why he gets the two guns. And look at what happened. Now, I'm not going to say, he was punished because he got the gun, so the spirits killed him. And nothing like that, I'm trying to say. But I'm really just saying, sometimes when we put ourselves in an environment, we put ourselves in a mindset that's not really ours. We're not being true to our true nature and our true mindset. When we're not being true to that, then we can now create and craft a path in our life that has nothing to do with what our life is supposed to be. And this singer, his name was Garnett Silk. If anybody who's ever listened, familiar. But Garnett Silk was the name of the brother. And he was, he was good brother, good artist. And I still, to this day, still listen to his work. He put out a lot of different projects back in the day, a lot of reggae projects. And he was Rasta. And so if anybody know, Rasta deals with peace and harmony and truth and balance. So coming outside of that, and dealing with some people who were savage, he turned to that savage mindset, and it wasn't for him. I'm not advocating that we shouldn't tote guns. Definitely not me. I'm not advocating that. But at the same time, I'm saying, not everyone needs to do that. Not everyone. That's not for some people, you see? So, sometimes your movements towards what you consider to be justice are really movements towards reciprocity. And reciprocity has to be tempered and triggered by how one defines themselves, or it can turn out bad. Okay, for a lack of a more complex word, it could turn out bad. So that has been our Thunderground Thursdays. I want to thank you all for listening, and be sure to check me out tomorrow, Foundational Friday. I will be right back at you again, and I look forward to speaking to you all. I look forward to seeing you all on 27th at Black and Nobel Bookstore in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I think we start at 7 o'clock, something like that. And it will be really good. It'll be really good. You'll appreciate it. I'm sure you will. You'll enjoy it. We're going to have a good time closing out the year and in the midst of the Kwanzaa season. It'll be a good time just to come and feel the family vibes. All right. So until next time, this is Yuya signing off of Thunderground Thursday. Peace. If you're ready to go to war for it.
With the help of forensic experts, have been putting together pieces of evidence following last night's gas cylinder explosion at Greenvale in Mandeville, which left 28-year-old entertainer Garnett Smith, known to you as Garnett Silk, and his 53-year-old mother, Dulcie Gray, dead, and 3 persons, including 2 family members, injured and in hospital. The injured and admitted to the Hargreaves Memorial Hospital in Mandeville are Amar Scott, 17, and Paul Casanova, 20, brothers of the dead entertainer and of Greenville District, and 31-year-old Philip Williams of Birdsucker Lane in Kingston. Preliminary police investigations have so far indicated that a 25-pound cooking gas cylinder exploded after it was hit by a shotgun blast at about 11 p.m. This resulted in a fire which destroyed the house which belonged to Miss Gray, resulting in the deaths and injuries. 2 other persons who were in the house at the time escaped injury. Detective Deputy Campbell of the Manchester Division, who is leading the investigations, has recovered a shotgun, a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, and several cartridges from the scene. The police are checking their records to determine the legal status of the weapons found. The 2 bodies that were recovered from the scene had their arms entwined around each other, which has left the impression that Mr. Silk died hugging his mother.
I always love my mama, she's my favorite girl. Oh mama, 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 my sweet mama. My daddy was a good old man, but he died since I was 1. So you see, it was my mother alone, with the responsibility in her hand. She struggled hard to feed and send us to school. She didn't want us to go like fools. And now I've got to give thanks for the good things she has done. Oh mama, I love you too, and I know you love me too. Oh mama, mama, I wanna make you blue. I wish that every mother was as sweet as you are. I know you're my shining star. Stay by me, never go too far. Oh mama, you can depend on me now, 'cause I see you've tried your best. Now it's up to me to do the rest. Mama taught us how to pray. I can remember hear mama saying, oh Father, give us this day our daily bread, and all our necessary needs. Oh Jah, I beg thee please. No wonder some mama with a Bible in her hand, reading and praying Jesus rolling from the past. I also and say, mama, please don't cry. Just remember God is standing by. I say, mama, you can depend on me now, 'cause I see you've tried your best. Now it's up to me to do the rest. I'm gonna work until I'm old and gray, because mama is depending on me. It doesn't matter what I do now, I just got to get your bread somehow. Lord, make me capable to put food on mama's table. Oh mama, mama, won't make you blue. I wish that every mother was as sweet as you are. I know you're my shining star. Stay by me,